Hey guys, I'm back, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm going to be counting down my top 5 favourite movies of last year, which was 2021. I know this video is extremely late, we're over 20 days into 2022 now. I should have done this at the start of the year, but I didn't, but I've just been wanting to make this video for a while now. So I'm doing it now. Please don't come at me, I'm sorry, I know this video is very, very late. But I don't really think there's any further explanation really needed. Let's get into the top 5. But as a warning, there will be spoilers for the films that I include on this list, but I will give a warning whenever I'm about to discuss spoilers, and I'll say, skip to this timestamp if you don't want to hear them. Yeah, stuff like that. So, without further ado, let's begin with this video. Coming in at number 5 is my favourite horror movie of the year. This is A Quiet Place Part 2. We got a lot of sequels this year. Countless sequels. I don't think it's a possible task. I don't think it's possible to count just how many sequels or franchise continuations we got this year, because, most of them just were films that got delayed from 2020, including this one. A lot of movies on this list are literally just sequels or franchise continuations. Also, I won't talk about these movies in too much detail because I've done movie reviews on quite a few of them, on most of them. But yeah, Quiet Place Part 2 is a movie I haven't reviewed. But overall, as someone who is a massive fan of the first Quiet Place movie, that's one of my favourite horror movies of all time. This was a truly great continuation of the first movie, and just a fantastic part 2. What was so interesting about it, and what I really loved, is that it didn't feel like a normal movie, in terms of, a story, a structure, all of that stuff, because it is literally the second bit of A Quiet Place. Both of these movies can be put together as one 3-hour movie, and it would make perfect sense. They do not feel like two different movies. It is one continuous story, and they did such a great job of, keeping the continuity between the two films. And so for a lot of it, I really didn't feel like I was watching a movie as much as I was in a story with the characters. At some parts you genuinely felt like you were there with the characters, because, as I said, it was a different, kind of film almost, and yeah, it was just a really great part 2 to part 1. Additionally, I feel like this is the aliens of the Quiet Place trilogy once part 3 comes out, of course. I feel like sort of the aliens of the Quiet Place franchise, because it's definitely a horror movie. It's got some great scares in there, way more jump scares than the original one did. I didn't think the jump scares were amazing, but I did think they were still quite great. But yeah, the first Quiet Place movie was definitely a sort of suspense, slow burning horror film, and a tension film. But this sort of leans more towards the sort of thrilling and thrill ride side of things. It is louder than the first one. As I said, there's more jump scares, and it feels like more of an action film than the first one did. And as a massive action movie fan, I really love that, but it's also great at the horror side of things as well. On top of that, there's some fantastic character moments and emotional beats, and it also did a great job at expanding the world of the Quiet Place world, and I can't wait for part 3. Coming in at number 4 is Free Guy. Easily the most fun movie of the entire year. This doesn't have, great thematic depth or anything, but it is such a fun movie. I was going to review this movie on my channel, but I haven't done that yet. But my thoughts on the film is it's just amazing fun. Ryan Reynolds is so fantastic. Just the cast is so much fun. The movie is so much fun, and it's just so creative. And the movie really reminds me of the Lego Movie in so many ways, and the Lego Movie is one of my favourite movies of all time, so that was great. This is just a movie that we all need every once in a while. It's not some big, deep movie, or some closure to some 52,000 year movie franchise. It is just a bunch of fun. It's just a really light-hearted, well-meaning movie that's just, its only goal is to entertain you, and it really succeeds in that department. But then when it does come to the emotional side of things and the character side of things in this movie, it's great. It still handles it really, really well. And this is one of the only times a movie, I think probably the only time a movie has ever done 21st century things and just not annoyed me. And by that I mean, this is a movie based around video games and gamers and stuff like that, and it wasn't cringy. It was fun. It did a great job at everything it was trying to do, for the most part. But Free Guy is just such a good time. I saw it with one of my best friends as well, so that just added to the fun. And yeah, Free Guy is just such a fun time, such a fun film. And yeah, I really, really liked what it was doing. It's not amazing cinema or anything, but it is still a really, really fun film. Into the top 3 now. Coming in at number 3 is No Time to Die. We finally had this James Bond movie released this year, after over a year of waiting. But yeah, I am just so happy that it's out, and I'm even more happy with the fact that it was such a good James Bond movie. The more I think about it, the more I realize just how well done this movie is. This is a James Bond film like no other, in my opinion. Like just right off the bat, it's got amazing action scenes, way better than the ones in Spectre. A great performance from Daniel Craig and the rest of the cast. It's got a really great score by Hans Zimmer. Some really good cinematography in there as well. I wish the villain was better. And the ending, I'll discuss that in just a second. But yeah, for the most part, like, what a great James Bond movie this was. So in terms of being a really solid Bond movie and just a really good Bond movie, this movie definitely succeeds. But on top of that, as I said, this is a James Bond movie like no other, in my opinion, because it felt like a really satisfying finale to Daniel Craig's era of James Bond movies. It's easily the best, easily my favorite James Bond like finale, like final Bond movie out of the James Bond actors, excluding Timothy Dalton. He only had 2 films. But Daniel Craig is the longest running James Bond, so he's been James Bond for the longest period of time. But yeah, it was just a truly great finale to the 15 years that he had as James Bond. And it's the most emotional James Bond movie ever. Time for spoilers. Skip here if you don't want to hear them, I guess, but everyone who cares about this movie's seen it by now, for sure. James Bond dying in the film is, an idea which was a bad idea, in my opinion, that was well executed. I've said that before. I think it's a bad idea that was well executed. I really wish that he survived the film, they didn't kill him. But the way that it's executed and the actual scene in which he dies is a very well done scene. It's really emotional. The score by Hans Zimmer, the song is called Final Ascent. Just absolutely fantastic. And this is a little bit hard to explain, so I'll do the best I can. But when I was younger and I got taken to the cinema to see new movies a lot less frequently, each time it felt like an event because, it was less frequent and it only happened once in a while. And so for days after, I would just, listen to the score of the movie, look back at the movie, and just remember the event that had taken place. Nowadays, for me personally, that doesn't happen anymore because I go to the cinema a lot more frequently to see new movies now. But there were 2 films this year which did that to me, and this was one of them. And for my first James Bond movie I saw in the cinema, I thought it was fantastic. So overall, really, really great Bond movie. Now, these next 2 were a little bit difficult because I like these movies as much as each other. One of them I've learned to love less, and one I've learned to love more as I look back on them. Overall, these 2 could go either way around any day. But I guess the reason I have number 1 as what it is because I don't think it would feel right if I didn't put that movie at number 1. So here at number 2, my number 2 pick is probably like my favorite movie of the year, but then number 1 is probably the best movie of the year. I don't think there's any difference when it comes down to opinion. So yeah, my number 2 pick on this list, my runner-up is Ghostbusters Afterlife. And this is a film that just meant the world to me as a massive fan of the Ghostbusters franchise. Since I was like 7 or 8, I loved the original, and like rewatching it like so much nowadays, I love it way more. In 2016, we had that really rubbish. I don't think it's rubbish, but we had that bad remake. I guess the reboot. Ghostbusters 2016 was not good. And this is what we should have gotten instead. And now in 2021, we're finally getting it. This is the Ghostbusters 3 the franchise deserved. A lot of critics don't like this movie because it's full of fan service, but it's a love letter to the original film. In fact, I have an entire video talking about this. So yeah, I think it's very clear to me why this film got a mixed reception, because if you're not a Ghostbusters fan, you're going to view this as a cash grab, and that's it. Well, probably a lot. It's clear that a lot of people have done that. But if you're a massive Ghostbusters fan like I am, you will get the most out of this movie. And as a Ghostbusters fan, I adored this film so much. Additionally, the cast is great, particularly McKenna Grace. She is amazing in this film. The visuals are fantastic. It really feels like a rediscovery of the Ghostbusters franchise. Again, mild spoilers here. This isn't really a spoiler at this point, but I guess skip this timestamp if you don't want to hear it. The original Ghostbusters coming back in this movie, I loved it. I had such a massive grin on my face at the end of the movie, and when the end credits rolled and the Ghostbusters theme played and everything, I loved all of it so, so much. And obviously, my number 1 pick for the best film of the year is SpiderMan No Way Home. Like I said, Ghostbusters Afterlife, probably my favorite film of the year, but also this as well, really great. Again, like Ghostbusters Afterlife, it's the best type of fan service. It's a love letter. And the only thing, not the only thing I don't like about this film, but there is one thing about this film that has really bugged me looking back at it, and that is the like story and the setup for it. Considering the fact this movie is a massive collaboration between characters from three different generations of Spider-Man movies, the setup feels quite pathetic. Like, I get the fact that it might be comic book accurate, but it's literally because a teenage boy messed up a spell that an adult was doing. It just feels kind of pathetic. A lot of people, and a lot of people I've talked to about this, have had problems with the fact that Peter Parker just wouldn't stop talking while the spell was taking place. And yeah, that's obviously the reason why everything got messed up. But I don't really have as much of a problem with that as I know other people do. Because if everything you'd ever been through with your besties was about to get erased, I think, you'd probably have a problem with that as well, wouldn't you? I have a massive issue with the fact that Doctor Strange did the spell as quick as that. Like, why would you do such a risky spell because a teenager told you to and you didn't talk it through first? You just did it, like, right off the bat. That is so stupid to me. Like, I really wish they didn't do that because that just infuriates me a lot. Yeah, I get the fact it might be comic book accurate or whatever, but I still didn't like it. But everything else about the movie, just fantastic. A love letter to Spider-Man fans. Again, this entire section is basically just going to be spoilers, so skip here if you don't want to hear them. But yeah, this is a newer movie, so I guess you have to be a bit more careful about spoilers if you haven't seen it and you want to. But yeah, with the second like half of this movie, I guess, once Aunt May dies and everything, there is some fantastic character exploration and character depth of Peter Parker, especially when the other Spider-Mans come in, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. The chemistry between all three of them is phenomenal, but just the character depth and development and character exploration with Peter Parker / Spider-Man, just absolutely fantastic. And that is probably my favourite thing about the film. But as I said, it's phenomenally good fan service. It does not feel cheap in any way whatsoever. It is a love letter to the fans. It's just a really fantastic Spider-Man movie. And yeah, as a massive Spider-Man fan, and I've been watching the movies for a long period of time now, since a few years ago started getting into the Tobey Maguire movies and then the Andrew Garfield movies. Those were the first like movies of their kind that I watched, like the first big budget, massive scale like comic book movies. So they do mean a lot to me, as I know they do for a lot of other people. And that is why Spider-Man No Way Home is such a great and satisfying Spider-Man movie. Additionally, the ending I actually like now. I used to not like it. I don't like the ending, but in terms of the context, the entire film, it really works, and it's just such like a nice ending in my opinion. Additionally, great action, great visual effects. I think the tone is a little bit clumsy in places. By that I mean, the second half tries to be more dark and more sad, which it definitely is, and it does a great job at that, especially for an MCU Spider-Man movie. But it feels like such a jarring change from the lighthearted tone of the first half. I wish it was handled a little bit better, but, they probably did the best they could. Overall, I really love Spider-Man No Way Home. So that's my top 5 list. Sorry, it's very late. But that's basically all I have to say for today. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please do remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you want to. And until next time, bye-bye.